how y'all doing? I'm April Anderson-Zorn. I'm the University Archivist here at Illinois State University, and I'm here to show you some really cool things here at University Archives. So what we do is we take care of the history of the university. We have lots of memorabilia, lots of documents, lots of fun stuff. Come on, let's see what we can find. Come on. At the very, very beginning of Atkin-Colby, in the 1960s, when it first opened, there was a time capsule placed in Atkin-Colby. This is the time capsule. This is the box they stored all their stuff in. And we found it when it was demolitioned in 2015. So the lid was pried open. And here is the 1961 yearbook that went into that time capsule. You notice anything a little weird about this yearbook? Maybe it got cut off. That's because they cut the yearbook to fit into the time capsule. This is a lesson in measure twice, cut once, kids. So here is Stinky Dog. This little fella was in South Campus as well. He was in the Hamilton-Witten time capsule, and that time capsule sprung a leak, unfortunately, in its time, 50 or so years in that time capsule. And he saw some things. He got a little wet, got a little dry, got a little wet, got a little dry. So if you were here in person right now, you could smell Stinky Dog. Oh, and with Stinky Dog, we also have a little Redbird. He used to sit on Stinky Dog. But we're not gonna call it Stinky Redbird. Little tiny Redbird. All right, let's come down this way, see what else we got. We used to have a safety patrol on campus back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And this is something they used to let students know they needed to move or something was coming. You ready? Hold your ears. Oh. And now you're just gonna have to wait while it winds down. It is spinning in the back. So, if you heard this, you knew the safety patrol was on its way. This is something we have as part of our larger safety collection here at the Archives. Here's Hovey, our first president, Charles Hovey, his ceremonial sword. So some of you sword enthusiasts will know, if you've seen our swords, we have one that's his battle sword and one that's his ceremonial sword, and this is the ceremonial sword. You'll notice the mother of pearl handle. All of this is carved. And he would wear this sword with his dress uniform when he would ride in parade or go to parties and he had to dress up in a fancy uniform, and he would wear it at his side. And this is probably something that he purchased after he got out of the war, which he was only in the Civil War for about a year before he left the war. But he did participate in parades and in celebrations, and this is the sword that he would wear when he would go to those functions that he had to kind of dress nice. All right, come on. Who put a goat here? There's a goat head. Yes, we even have a goat head. So we also collect the administrative papers of the Illinois Soldiers and Sailors School, ISSCS. And this is, apparently, as I've been told by some former residents, a plaster head that was made apparently by a student. But this is Charlie the Goat Head from Illinois Soldiers and Sailors School, and he does in fact belong to the larger collection of administrative papers that we have for Illinois Soldiers and Sailors School, ISSCS. This isn't just for chopping wood, although I guess you could. This, I always like to say, is when the zombie apocalypse happens, I'll be prepared. But you'll notice up at the top it says ISNU, Illinois State Normal University. So for some of you, you know this is a dated piece. But here on the sides, you'll see 1948, 1949, 1950. So this is a decade's worth of games where they've put the scores that they won against Illinois Wesleyan University. So this is a trophy axe that went between Illinois State Normal University and Illinois Wesleyan University for about a decade. This was a football game that they would play against one another. And so for Illinois Wesleyan, they played 1951 and 1952, and they beat us by a little bit. They beat us by a little bit, so they had the axe just those 2 years. But we had the axe the rest of the years for that particular decade. So we have the trophy axe here at University Archives. We're ready for the zombie apocalypse. Here we have a football from the 1950s. This was a game football donated by a gentleman by the name of Vernon, who donated it long before I started here at Illinois State. It was in the early 2000s. So this is one of many game balls that we have in the athletics collection, this one being a game-used football from the early 1950s. And in his note to the archivist here at the time, was donating this back to preserve it for athletics history. And for you women's basketball fans, here's a basketball from an early 1980s team with our famous Kathy Boswell here signed on this basketball. For those of you that know Kathy's career, Kathy went and played in the 1984 Olympics, but this is when she was playing here at Illinois State University, and this is the game ball that was signed by the team here. And this is, again, one of the many memorabilia pieces we have in the athletics collection, this one being a signed basketball with Kathy Boswell's signature. So I do have media guides. So in our athletics collection, we have lots of these little booklets called media guides. We have them for lots of sports: basketball, football, baseball, both men and women's sports. So if you played a sport at some point in your time at ISU or ISNU, we might have one of these little booklets that tells us about the season you played. In this case, it's 1968 football. And when you go through the guide, you'll get little headshots of who is, say, on the coaching staff, who played on the team at the time, their positions on the team, what they did last season, if they played for us last season or previous seasons, and what you might expect from them for the coming season. We also have little comments from the athletics directors, as well as where the games are played. So if you're looking for a little history about athletics here at Illinois State University, we also have lots and lots of these media guides for different sports at the university. Let's see, I do have this jacket. Now this jacket is a wrestling jacket. This came to us from actually a student who was attending ISU at the time a few years ago, and her grandfather, who had heard about us through an alumni event, donated through his granddaughter this wrestling jacket when he was here in the 1950s. So we love to have pieces like this. It has the N showing that he was a member of the N club, so he did letter in his sport. And this is also a little different because this has leather sleeves on it, and the leather's holding up pretty well. Here we have this baseball bat. So it was a baseball bat, but now it's a trophy, and it was hung as a trophy. This was for the 1969 baseball team with a record of 33-5, Illinois State University NCAA College Division National Champions. And at one point it did hang with these little eye hooks on someone's office wall, but we got this out of Horton, and now it's part of the athletics collection. This is a blanket that was donated by an anonymous alum. Let's just get this open for you real quick, where the students would take the blankets. Heck, you could keep it on your bed, you could put it out on the lawn and watch a game. But what's great about this blanket, it's the simplicity. This is a felt blanket with a border around the edge and Illinois State, so I-State. This is very likely after we changed our name in the 60s. We went from Illinois State Normal University to Illinois State University at Normal, and then to Illinois State University. So it's probably in that time that this blanket came into being, but we have it now and we put it on display all of the time. So we really love this blanket as an example of what students may have been doing in their free time, going to games, hanging out outside, and using this blanket to sit on. So homecoming in 2021 here at the university will celebrate 100 years of being here on campus. When you were here in the 20s and 30s, whenever there was a dance, particularly for homecoming, you'd get these little dance cards. So here, this is one for 1936. You see homecoming dances. And when you'd go to these dances, you get this little book, and here's some lines on the side. If you were a woman, you'd get the booklet, and the guys would sign their names in the book for lineup of dance. So you'd go and dance with them in the order in the book, or you didn't have to stick with the order if you didn't want to, but you'd have your list of fellas to dance with in this booklet. You'd also have your dances here, since this was a homecoming dance card. The dances for homecoming are listed here and when they were going to happen. And then sometimes it would list who was playing at the dance and who helped do the decorations at the dance. So here's a couple of dance booklets. We also have the program from the very first ISNU homecoming. And you'll notice homecoming 1921 with information on the inside about the very first homecoming here at ISNU. Okay, let's go see what else we got. Oh, we have lots of stuff on these shelves, things that are waiting to get processed. Oh, and I also have an assortment of buttons. I have a few here, buttons from homecoming. So this is from the 1946 homecoming. I even have a 1947 homecoming button that kind of matches it, a red and a white one, with that Redbird on the button. And you'll notice it says ISNU on the button. So we have an assortment. We don't have buttons for every year, but we do have quite a few years represented in the homecoming collection. Here's one from 1923 showing ISNU. We have a few of those. We also have buttons from the 60s. Here's this one where we played Western, homecoming in Western. This was the theme for 1968. We also have our 1980s era Thumbs Up Reggie. We also have buttons from recent homecomings like this 2003 homecoming button. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's see. Oh, I do have some dance booklets. So, dance booklets were pretty popular here, 50s, 60s, 70s in particular, where if you went to a dance, usually hosted by the residence halls. This one is the Winter Whisper that was hosted by Hamilton Winton Hall. You get these little dance booklets that would be sort of themed to the dance, the colors of the dance, but it also tell you who was hosting the ball and the name of the ball or the dance, who was playing at the dance, who was on the social council that set up the dance, just any other little bits of information, maybe what was on the menu, some of the residence hall residents in charge, but you would get this little booklet when you went into those dances. So we have a few of those in our collections. This one's for Hamilton Winton, this one's from Dunbarton. We have a lot of these little booklets over the years that show what students were doing when they would go to a dance. And this is a food service card. So you, as a student, here we have someone by the name of Nancy, would take this card to a food location on campus and it would be punched for when Nancy would go and get a meal. And this would show that she had gotten a meal at that time. I'm sure a lot of you know that we are no longer printing the vidette on campus, but we do have our older videttes all the way back to the first one in 1888. Well, obviously, homecoming is a big student event, and this particular vidette here is from November 9th, 1921, that declared the very first homecoming at ISNU homecoming was indeed a success, and that hundreds of old grads and former students returned to alma mater. So this is the page, the front page of the vidette declaring homecoming, the very first one in 1921, was indeed a success. I'm sure some of you out there might remember this. This is the board for the Blackfriars. Blackfriars class of 1964. The Blackfriars were a performing group associated with the theater department who performed shows every year, and they would do these really fun sort of satirical plays or these performance hours, or they'd have these fun skits. They were sort of the I don't want to say jesters because we had a jesters, but they were the fun group of performing students on campus for several decades in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and we do still have some alumni Blackfriars around who contribute to a Blackfriar scholarship that benefits students in the School of Theater and Dance. There has been some talk that maybe the students might restart the Blackfriars group, but here you can see a list of the alumni who were part of the Blackfriar class of 1964. Here's something that's really fun. This is our first president, Charles Edward Hovey. This is his diploma. So this is his diploma from Dartmouth. This is a sheepskin's diploma from the 1850s, and the way he used to carry it around was rolled up in a tube. We still have that tube, and it says Dartmouth on it, but now we keep it in this acid-free binder that was created by our folks in preservation, and we can get it out and show you the diploma itself. You see it free moves in this sleeve. We don't have it terribly enclosed, but you can also see the writing that's still there, the crisp, clear writing from the 1850s. But this is Charles Edward Hovey's diploma from Dartmouth. Lots of boxes. Oh, here we go. Speaking of Hovey, we have in his collection cabinet cards. So these are images of his wife Harriet, and there's Charles Hovey. And they made these things called cabinet cards. You could have your photo taken, and they're these sturdy, almost thick postcard-like cards. We have several of these in the Hovey collection of both Hovey, his wife, and their family, their sons. And you can see here he's standing next to a table. This is Hovey post-Civil War. The Civil War really did a number on him physically. He came back with malaria, he had been shot in the shoulder, so he was quite sick when he returned, and that's why he's kind of thin and frail looking in this photo. And this photo was taken in Washington, D.C. when they lived in D.C. after the war. So this is a glass negative of the greenhouse that is attached to Felmley Hall. So this glass negative, if you think of the glass, when you think of an original negative, you think of a piece of plastic that has an image on it. Essentially the same thing. This is glass, and then the image is printed with an emulsion that's stuck to the glass right here on this side. And when I flip it over, this is the shiny side. So on the back, there's the image, and this is the correct way to look at it. I don't know if you can see it, but this is actually the greenhouse right there that's still standing, and there's Felmley Hall right there. So this is an image that was taken in the 1920s when Felmley Hall was first built. So I have this lovely bust of our 9th president of the university, Robert Bone, but we don't know where this came from. We don't know anything about it. This is one of those pieces that when I started at the university in 2011, he greeted me when I came into the stacks and started to organize the stacks. But we are lucky to have him, and I sometimes show him to students, and they look at him and still get that warm feeling, just like an alum would when they knew Dr. Bone in person. Dr. Bone, who knew everybody by first name and never forgot their first name. But we have his bust here at University Archives. Okay, so let's hop out of here and go across the way. We're going to take a look at some presidential portraits we have on display. And now we're at what I like to call the Watchers on the Wall for you Game of Thrones fans. These are the presidents of Illinois State University, except for one. One is a president of the United States. The rest of them are presidents of the university. In these portraits, some of them are a little different. Some are hand painted. Those are our older portraits. Some are portraits, pictures that have been cut out and pasted to a canvas and then painted over to look like a portrait. And then some are pictures that have been turned actually into a portrait, just kind of glossed over to look like a portrait. If you have any questions about university history, say you have materials you'd like to donate, history you'd like to research, please contact us at archives.ilstu.edu, and we'll be happy to talk to you about Illinois State University history. I'm April Anderson-Zorn, University Archivist for the Dr. Ann Rayfield Archives.